Good morning and welcome to Table to Stage. I'm Jordan Worma and this is my podcast. I have a cup of coffee in my hand, so I am ready to start the day. Today's guest is Zufar Bikbov. He's got an interesting story. He's originally from Russia and he emigrated to the United States at the end of 2003 as a medical professional. He has now established himself in the Plein Air painting community, and he teaches others the art form that he has really become very passionate about. You can see his work, or you can actually watch his online instruction videos at confidentartist.com. So the term Plein Air painting wasn't something I was familiar with until I discovered Zufar's work, but it essentially refers to artists who paint outdoors. And plein air artists seem to be a tight and pretty encouraging community. This is, of course, based on the one plein air artist I've spoken with. Admittedly, it's a small sample size. Zufar is a genuinely passionate and kind person. So I hope you enjoy hearing his story. If you do, let me know by dropping a 5-star rating on iTunes or leaving a review on your favorite podcast service. The more ratings and reviews the show gets, the easier it is for new listeners to find the pod. If you're not already subscribed to the pod, then you should definitely hit that subscribe button to keep up with all the latest episodes. And of course, follow along on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And you can email tabletostage@gmail.com if you'd like to get in touch more directly. I really enjoyed getting to speak with Zufar about his life and his art. And the folks at Arts Escape in Southbury were kind enough to open up their studio and let us record in their space. You can actually learn more about their programs at artsescape.org. So for now, here's Zufar Bikbov.
Jordan, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm very pleased to be on your podcast.
Well, I'm excited that could finally do this.
Yes, it's great weather outside, beautiful time, and great that we're talking about oil painting, which is my passion.
Yeah. So where are you from originally?
I've been born in Russia, in that part of Russia which was hometown of Nikolai Sechin.
Okay.
I like to refer to this artist because he's well known in America. In 1925, not being able to paint for Soviet propaganda, which had hard time. I mean, the Soviet Republic had hard time to survive. So he decided that he wants to be a free artist, and he immigrated to U.S.
Okay.
And settled first in New York, and then had been working very well in Taos. By the time when he got to United States, he was already a quite famous one. Anyway, so many artists know this name, and I'm from town, and I would say coming from the same art school where he been coming from.
Okay.
And that's on Volga River. It's Russia is quite vast country. It's 500 miles directly to east from Moscow, and then another 500 miles east from Kazan, where I'm from, and there will be Ural region. There is Yekaterinburg, is another big center in Russia, well known.
So 1,000 miles east of Moscow?
1,000 miles east from Moscow will be Ural, and where Ural Mountains, which actually is a vertical line of, I would say, on the map of the mountains which divide Asia to the right and Europe to the left.
Okay. It's a pretty rural area?
No, place where I'm from and where I studied, it's city is over 1,000-year-old.
Oh wow!
And population is about is over 1 million.
Oh,
so it's pretty well.
Okay.
It's a big cultural and technological, I would say, center as well, and it's officially third capital of Russia.
Oh,
because everyone knows two capitals, Moscow and St. Petersburg.
Right.
Yes, so Kazan is the third capital, third important city in the country.
Okay. So when did you come to the United States?
So that happened 14 years ago in 2000, actually in December of 2003. It was a couple of days before New Year, so that is why I count from beginning of 2004 usually.
Sure.
And that was not my first visit. I've been thinking a lot, shall I move here or not? Because that was my third visit. And my first two visits been related to my medical career, but I guess we'll be talking about soon.
Yeah. That's interesting because, I mean, you started out, your early life path was to be a doctor, right? I mean, you went all through medical school and became a medical professional.
I would say, considering profession, considering a way how I would make money, and also self kind of actualization. So I was considering medicine as one of my top choices.
Okay.
Yes, but when I was in school, especially when I was like teenage or even pre-teenage, I was not thinking much about the medical field.
Yeah.
My mother's side is coming from medicine. My father wished to be an artist, and he was born at the end of 1930s during the Stalin regime, and his dream to be an artist was under pretty big suppression.
Yeah.
So my grandfather was a political prisoner, and then it was reflected on the entire family and on my dad's path as well. Wow. So he couldn't get scholarship to go to college because of just having a father who was a prisoner, political prisoner.
Oh,
and
boy.
He was saying something about Stalin, that he is not thinking that whatever is done by Communist Party is not right, and that was enough to be sent to camps.
And that really carried over through multiple generations?
Until 1953, when Stalin died, and then we got another leader, and we had what called thaw during the Khrushchev time,
right.
and then. But for people in America, probably Khrushchev is better remembered by the Caribbean crisis and all that kind of stuff.
With Kennedy and all that.
Yes, but for the country, generally, change from Stalin to Khrushchev was a big thing.
Wow.
Yes, and my father, he was, by the time he was willing to be an artist and he could go to art school, art college, it still was during the Stalin time. And without scholarship, he wouldn't be able to survive. And at that time, people could not get loan. So you get or supported by government or not supported. If you're not supported, you need to have your own funds.
Right.
And since my grandmother had 3 children, and they lived at that time like in a rural area, so she could not send money to my dad. And he quit that idea, came back, finished a high school, and that's how it works in Russia. To be an artist, you can start much earlier.
Yeah.
And then he went and became engineer. Country needed engineer at that time a lot, and they were not looking for where you're coming from. But for artists, writers, poets, that was critical, which background you have. So my father had the wrong background in those terms.
Right. Yeah. So, but did he continue his, as a hobby or his passion for art? Did that stay with him, even though he ended up having to go a different career path?
Yes, he did. He was painting mainly with watercolor, and he was engineer of building. He was constructor for buildings. They had the subject of architecture, and architecture was taught by people who are good with pencil, drawing, and many of them had art as hobby or as a second profession.
Sure.
I could even say that number of people whom I know here as watercolor artists, number of them are having had architectural background, especially those who immigrated from another country, like from Russia.
Oh, wow.
There's a couple of people I know here doing this way.
So how did that influence you as a child, with your father being, an artist to his core, I guess? Like he had a passion for the arts. Did that influence you and how you were eventually drawn to being an artist?
It did. It did. By the time when I was 9 years old, even before that, when I was in preschool, so I've been drawing, and many teachers said, yes, you're drawing so well, because drawing and art was always a part of curriculum, kindergarten or pre-K, and so on. And of course, that I do better than other kids, it was well known to teachers, to my parents. And then when I got to the age when I could go to youth art school at the age of 9, it was not needed. I did not need to convince my parents I want to go to art school. I probably did not know by that time that we have art school in our city.
Okay.
So, but my dad said, let's send you there.
Did they encourage you in that regard, or was he a little hesitant because of his experience?
No, he wasn't. I guess he did regret that he could not go. He was not pushing.
Yeah.
I think it came out very naturally. I do not even remember any significant conversation about that.
Okay.
Because I draw, I paint at that time with watercolor, and my dad said, like, we'll have exam to art school. So I go and say yes. So there was no any discussion, and that was so naturally coming from his side and from my side as well.
Yeah. So what was the reaction from your parents when you started along the medical path? Was that a surprise? Were they thinking you would focus more on art?
Not really. So from age of 9 to 14, I went to youth art school. It's pretty serious education. I think that I would benefit, or anyone would benefit it at any age. So it's not very basic. You need to really, by age of 9, you had to have pretty good skills to get there. That is why we took exam. They held exam, and I passed it and have been accepted. Not everyone can get there. Second thing is, it was 4 or 5 times a week, 3-4 hours a day, drawing, painting, composition.
And this is in addition to just traditional school?
To regular school, yes. And at the age of 14, right after graduation from the youth art school, there is another step which could be taken, but it was not available in my city. There are a few like Academy of Fine Arts in St. Petersburg, Surykov's Institute of Art is in Moscow, and maybe a couple more, but mainly these two institutions. They have a special school where you can study and do art at the same time.
Okay.
So like next step. And then you have a program within from age of 14 until you are 17, and you graduate from the regular school because you need to cover both curriculums. You don't need to go to the college anymore. You go straight to academy.
All right.
And to take exams to academy would be easy.
Okay.
Because like it's continuous education from 9 till like 17.
Right.
And I was, as I mentioned, 500 miles away from Moscow, closest city where we had this kind of school. Some kids go, some kids don't. I had good grades in like many subjects. And with my parents, especially probably my parents and my father's experience, yes, was coming like I did not have my dad when I was a child. I mean, I talk about my dad, and he said like why he would go and be there, like not almost like an orphan, no parents around, living in dorm and so on. So they did not really approve that idea, even though my teachers said that he definitely will get there, and he has enough talent for that. So I did not go. Then we had funny time of late 1980s. When Gorbachev brought new relations to the world, more like open relations, but economically wise, it was a big collapse.
Right.
First, the system was not working well. The second, Gorbachev was not a good economist, so his reforms been good on one side, but they were not very efficient, and everything was new. So artists had were coming down in their level of the support from government.
Oh, okay.
So many other jobs which have been related at that time, like again to be architect and so on, was very difficult to talk about their future because countries stopped building anything new.
Right.
Soviet systems was maybe not the best, but it was working, and there was no free flow of the economy. There was pretty regular thing.
Yeah.
So, and I was thinking, by the time I was graduating from high school, what I'm going to do, and I talked to my parents. So we thought like to be an artist was not the best choice at that time,
Okay.
and we didn't know how long will it take.
Yeah.
So
you weren't sure you could make a living as an artist at that time.
Yes. So we decided why not to go to medical school. And by that time, we still could have a full stipend from government to study medicine or anything for free.
Okay.
Plus, I graduated cum laude and with a golden medal from regular school.
Okay.
So I had like many of doors open. So I went to medical field.
All right.
And after we have 6 years, not 8 years as here, to become a doctor. And then, so that's how I came to medical field. I think that there have been circumstances. And plus, maybe it's a problem when you have too many choices.
Uh-huh.
There is high chance to choose something different from what you only choice as a passion could be.
Right, but the choice for medical school was strictly thinking financially, how are you going to support yourself?
Not really.
No? Okay.
Not really. I'm that kind of person who likes helping other people, and even in arts, I like to teach because I'm a person who likes to create on one side, on another side to serve people. Mm-hmm. And medical field, one of those which are highly regarded for.
Yeah.
For this matter. So you're helping people, you're saving lives. You need to be a higher standard person to do so.
Right.
So I thought I can do it.
But your passion must have stayed with your paintbrush through all those years.
Since I did not go to that special school in Moscow, I was drawing less because
Okay.
I did not have classes anymore. And I've been drawing, and last year in my youth art school, we started painting oils, and that was in 1984.
Okay.
No, 88, actually. And so I was doing that mainly as a hobby.
Mm-hmm.
And then in medical school, I felt that I want to paint more, and I started to do that more actively, just to relieve stress. Then I had friends who finally got to the art college. I did not go to art college because I went to university to get my medical degree. So my circle of my friends who could be artists or are becoming artists was wider.
Yeah.
So I think I was going up and up on the level of interest and in need of painting and drawing. I did not have much time, but drawing was quite important skill in medical school as well. That was the way as you learn not only from like atlas, the texture, tissues, structure, and so on. You had to draw them.
Yeah.
Whatever you see under microscope, that was helpful.
Now, why is it if art is very important for physicians, why can't I ever read their handwriting? It's just chicken scratch. There's no artistry to it at all.
Yes, I think they had to teach calligraphy.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yes.
So what made you eventually make the decision to leave to leave medicine to focus full time as an artist?
It was circumstances and my own choice. I did not have a strong choice, like no matter what I'll be artist or no matter what I will be a doctor. These two things were going well along until one point when on one side I could not accept that if I want to be an artist, I will be all the time only on this level because time will be limited.
Mm-hmm.
On the other side, I knew that, and I tried to get to medical residency is a challenge. And for that, I would need probably spend more time just maybe traveling. Maybe I would have to move to another part of the country for 3-4 years. Mm-hmm. Did not really work well with plans of my family because I have 2 daughters and wife. I did not want to make life difficult for them as well. I applied to medical residency locally, and I have not been accepted. People apply to hundreds of programs. I applied to 2.
Oh, wow, okay.
So which would be convenient. And then next year I decided spend a lot of time for this career. And now 1, 2, 3 years doesn't really make any change. So why I won't take a vacation from a medical field and we'll do art only. And we'll see how much I can grow. What else can I do? And teaching came at that point, and that was another important thing, which I was planning but could not fulfill because of lack of time. So, and I'm happy. I think I learned a lot, talking about the last 2-3 years. I learned a lot about myself. Mm-hmm. I opened the horizon and the angle of my vision, myself as an artist. Mm-hmm. And I probably will not say that I finally made decision no medical field at all. Okay. But I'm thinking about myself as an artist more than as a possibly practicing physician in the United States.
Yeah, okay. Now you are primarily an oil painter now, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. What drew you to that medium for your creative outlet? Why oil painting as opposed to just drawing or watercolors or acrylics?
A lot of things are coming to our life when it's related to like childhood memories. Mm-hmm. First, of course, I knew artists who are well-known, whom I knew from books and encyclopedia we had in our home, and a number of the art-related books, they've been all oil painters. Yeah. So I could see that this great art could be done with oils and probably could not be done with watercolor. Yeah. And for oil, you can have a size of like 4 by 4 inches, or you can have a painting which is, 4 foot by 4 foot, 4 yards by 4 yards, and so on. So big flexibility. Second, impressive. I would say it's flexible, and on the other hand, it's forgiving media. Yeah. If you work and you change your idea, you still can keep working on the same canvas. And also even those things when I had a set of oil paints in our house. It's my father's paints. Okay. He was not painting much with oils, even though he did, but was working mainly with watercolor. And the smell of oil, linen oil, and brushes, when you're a child, you remember it then through the whole life. Sure. And then I was really waiting for the moment when in our art school, they will say, you can bring oil paints and you can start painting with oil. I tried, I really liked it. It wasn't same as watercolor, but I easily learned how to adjust to it, and I really loved it. Okay. Now,
what kind of styles are you ultra realist or abstract? What sort of stuff do you paint?
From my art school, until now, I paint mainly in realism with a touch of impressionism. I cannot say that it's impressionism, because in impressionism it's supposed to probably take brighter colors than they are what you see. Mm-hmm. And it depends, of course, how you're sensitive to color. But the ways of impression, of the expression myself, I think I work in a realistic manner. I do landscapes primarily. And that's not a surprise. Many of well-known Russian artists are landscape artists. Talking about Levitan and Shishkin or Ivazovsky as a marine artist. All these Serov, they've been painting a lot landscapes. And then I love oil. Everything is perfect. I cannot even say, count. I think whatever I touch, I do not see any negatives.
Okay.
Why I wouldn't do so? So I tried it, I loved it, and my love is lasting for 30 years already.
Yeah. No, the artists that you mentioned, do you see a direct influence of their work on what you create now?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I still learn from that school, and I'm glad that in Russia, school of oil painting was quite consistent. I think the way as it was formed by this from second half of in the second half of the 19th century, there've been followers, and that I think has that's what people label here Russian art.
Mm-hmm.
Special attention to color, mixing color, and you cannot really think that it's hyperrealism. It's a painting. Everything is painted there. You can see that. I love that style from beginning, even though I try to you always, when you paint, there are several stages, and you need to see what you paint, the objects. Then you need to make it abstract in your mind. You see just shapes, values, and colors. Then you, of course, when you paint again, you add details. Then you remove details. Then you finally find that balance through several waves like that, what you can leave in your painting or what should be gone. So I think those names really taught me, and for me still big reference in my mind. If I paint, I want to paint like Levitan or other big names. But I know in America, Isaac Levitan is probably known as the best known, well-known name.
Okay. Now, you mentioned landscapes.
Yes.
Which brings me to why I initially reached out to speak to you, because I saw the term Plein Air applied to what it is that you do. And being a typical American that speaks just one language, I had no idea what that meant. So explain to me and everybody who's listening, what does it mean to be a Plein Air artist?
It's simple. Words coming from French language, since in second half of 19th century, so artists had paints available to be bought in stores and packed into tubes, like toothpaste. So that was convenient compared to what artists had to do before. They had to mix pigments, do that, kind of have a little lab in there.
Yeah, the tubes are portable.
So now tubes, at that time tubes became portable. So you can have a box, have a bag with paints, a bag with brushes, and go outside to paint. And painting outdoors in French is called en plein air, which is outdoors. So painting in plein air means painting outdoors.
Okay.
And that's a very important step. Initially, when everything was designed to paint in studio, artists mainly painted by how they remember things, or by not through direct observation unless they painted figures. Even the French school had to say, if you see the person and his ears are bigger, or like arms are kind of shorter, or fingers are a little abnormal, you still have to paint as would be the best example of this person.
Sure.
You should not follow the true...
Focus on the ideal.
Yes, ideal forms. And that, I guess, come from the ancient times, from Roman and Greek sculptures and so on. And then when we had this revolution, you paint what you see. Painting outdoors, landscape specifically, was essential. You have to learn and paint as you see, as you feel.
Yeah.
Painting process became shorter. At the same time, painting was not like a glazing, very thin layers. It became more impasto, thicker layers.
Okay.
Yes, it's another term.
What that means.
Yes, which sounds more Italian.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So what is it about being outdoors while you're painting that you find so so stimulating, so so interesting? Why is it that you focus on being an outdoor painter? Does it change the way you interact with your art?
Yes. I think since we are, again, another way of calling art which show real things. It's not only realism, it's also representational art, right? You describe what you see, and quite often, not only, I mean, camera can probably take a picture of what you see, you add their feelings.
Sure.
And you definitely need to connect to the object which you paint. Maybe explaining that, talking about the portraits will give a good, will show it like more easier to understand.
Okay.
Let's say you got a photograph of a person and you want to paint her or him, and then of course you can take all dimensions and transfer it to canvas, paint it like shadows will be light, but you do not interact with that person.
Right.
You cannot really even change much. You cannot ask that person to sit that way or this way, to put his hands on maybe on his chest or keeping on laps and so on. But that's a very important point, because that talks and explains who this person is.
Sure.
You can paint that person smiling or being serious. So best portraits are usually painted with through direct observation. At least you need to spend a few sessions talking to that person,
right,
even before you start, just to understand what's the character of that person.
Sure.
And then you make a decision how you want that person to paint, from side or front, and standing or sitting, or maybe reading. Same thing with the landscape. You need to relate. But walking through fields and coming to studio and paint it, it's possible. But the best colors and vibration, and it can be done on the go. While you have portable gear, why not to do it outdoors?
Sure.
And when you compare what you do in your studio and when you do in outdoors, you see how different these two paintings.
So you can tell the difference with
Yes.
something's been painted in outdoors as opposed to painting from a photograph in the studio.
Yes. The second thing, artists paint like a number of paintings through the life. Some of them go every day. Some of them paint several paintings a day. But let's say there is a special observation that's taught in Russian art schools. If you go outside and paint, let's say during 2-week gap, you will paint sunny days, cloudy days. You probably can divide all your paintings to 3-4 groups, talking about the light,
Okay.
cloud, overcast day, and so on. And your paintings will be different, because light is never the same.
Sure.
I mean, it could be very close, but it's never the same. So you'll be using different paints. Sometimes you'll make purple with like one group of paints, and another day you'll have it the kind of more gray or warmer. When you paint in studio, you learn, you just remember what mixes make that purple or this gray.
Oh,
You
I
start
see.
repeating
Okay.
yourself, because you paint mainly from what you know, but not from what you feel. Using your
Yeah.
eyes or listening to thunderstorm, and you're in rush finishing painting. Painting should be different.
Yeah.
Maybe for business part, that's a big thing for the artist, because artists always try to, I mean, like a number of artists I know try to fight the pressure from gallery, because they say, oh, we have this painting, can you paint same things? And if artists start experiment and paint differently, the gallery say, we cannot sell it, it's different painting. It looks like a different artist did that. I'm not talking, of course, something extremely different. But generally, galleries, they think business-wise, it's a scary situation.
Okay.
But the art is art because you are not factory, you're not producing, you're always trying to grow.
Right.
And your growth is in two things: change, and change to something new and interesting or better.
Yeah.
So we have not so many artists who've been able to experiment through the life, like Picasso. He was experimenting all life, and he was successful.
Yeah, a little
Most
bit.
of the artists,
Yeah.
they change style. A gallery quite often may say, like, we cannot work with you anymore. Our customers don't want to buy this art anymore.
Wow.
You need to find another gallery which will be interested in your new style.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah, that happens, unfortunately. But I would say artists who are really care more about their art, they would choose to go to other gallery.
Yeah.
But to keep painting what is really touching them, what's exciting them.
Yeah.
And that excitement happens for landscape artists outside.
Yeah.
Not much in studio.
Yeah. Now, how do you find your subjects? Where do you find the landscapes you're going to paint? Do you just wander around and set up an easel where you're inspired, or do you scout the locations?
There are different ways to find subject to paint. First, it could be paint something which already someone painted.
Mm-hmm.
You come and feel how different your feelings about this place is, or you come and say, yeah, that painting was great, so that artist is so close to what I feel,
Mm-hmm.
and you just find different subject and paint through direct observation. But ideas coming from what you've seen painted before.
Okay.
Second, of course, could be well-known place where many people travel, and you come to this place just curious. On photograph, it looks great. You come on photograph looks great, but I do not see subject to paint.
Yeah.
You get closer because people like vistas, like when you see a million objects, artists quite often have to focus. We have
Sure.
a term, focal point.
Uh-huh.
You need to have not so many of them.
Right.
1, 2, 3. If it's 10, for photograph, it's great. For painting, it's killing.
Now, where do you go? Do you paint just in Connecticut, or do you travel for different locations?
For those who are looking to grow their skill in plein air painting and to become professional painters, or who are professional painters in studio but want to go outside, one of the ways which is convenient, and I would highly recommend to go to plein air events. And I've been lucky to be never rejected from any plein air events where I applied within the last 6 years. And first I went to Finger Lakes.
Mm-hmm.
That was not too far, but it was 6 hours drive from here.
Yeah.
I painted for 3-4 days, and I really liked it. And there, another artist whom you meet there, because there is camaraderie,
Mm-hmm.
and we exchange information, trying to help each other. And they told me about Easton, which is in Maryland, in Chesapeake Bay area. It was a big event, and the last 6 years, every year I go there. I'm glad that they love me. I love that place, even though it's extremely hot. It's happening mid of July with humidity, which is close to 90, I
that
think.
mid-Atlantic region is pretty brutal in the summer.
Yeah, so that I'm just talking about how my geography of travel has been expanding.
Mm-hmm.
Then I went next year to Wayne, which was closer in Pennsylvania. Then I shoot to Atlanta and to California.
Okay.
And then I painted in Colorado. And then I realized I traveled too far, but we have still more places in New England to
Mm-hmm.
paint. I started exploring Maine. And this year I went to Cape Ann Plein Air, which is
Okay.
not far from here, just 3.5-4 hours drive. But it's for me it's a big thing, which I will be exploring before next 2019 session of plein air competition will happen again.
Okay.
So that's the way how it was happening. And my recommendation would be to artists who are starting or been painting well around, just to go apply to one of these events. Application is usually $40-50,
Mm-hmm.
which is affordable for almost everyone. And then board is usually free. They try to feed you. They usually treat you as a kings.
Yeah.
And at the end, of course, it's unpredictable. Will you have sales or you will not? Will you win anything or not?
Mm-hmm.
It's still, everyone wants to sell as well.
Sure.
And then everyone benefits. Artists usually get more than half, and organizers get less than half of that of the sold of the profit.
Have you ever sold a painting?
Yes.
What was it like the first time you sold a piece of your artwork?
That's actually one of the things which I've seen in America. They ask a lot. In Russia, they do not ask this question.
No, okay.
Because for like a number of years, they taught Soviet person of Soviet country, or the Russia at that time, Soviet Union, should not really care much about money. Government will help.
Well, I don't mean so much the money. I mean, it's like personal satisfaction that something you created was something that somebody else desired. Like they enjoyed your work. They wanted it on their wall. How did you have any sort of reaction to that?
I did have a reaction.
Yeah.
Yes, I think it happened during my first or second visit when I've been here by exchange with medical school of Yale University, School of Medicine. And even at that time, one of my friend physicians, Dr. Bowen, who is retiring, or I think he retired just recently. He's an oncologist. He bought me, knowing that I paint, it's my hobby. He bought me a set of acrylic paints.
Okay.
And I did a couple of paintings, and he showed me gallery, which, I went to gallery to buy paints. Then when I brought to that gallery my sketches and paints, so they decided to get it immediately. They paid me cash.
Oh, wow.
So, of course, I was not talking to people who would buy my painting, but still, he was sure that my painting will be desired by other people.
Yeah.
And then I gave a painting to my physician friend. Mm-hmm. And I think that was my first experience of selling art here. And I've been selling in Russia a few pieces before that.
Okay.
But I think selling art in America for me was more exciting.
Yeah.
And again, growing of career pretty much happened here. It looks like in Russia I studied a lot, talking about art. Here I was building it as a independent artist business, and then I'm like working on more projects about teaching, and then I probably need to do some sort of company now.
Well, okay, so let's talk about your teaching, because you have an online presence now where you're doing online classes, and you're teaching here where we are today, the Arts Escape in Southbury. So talk a little bit about your experience now teaching other artists, what you have been able to learn so far.
Yes, going to these plein air events, it led that I was more known, and then also had been featured in Plein Air magazine in June, July of 2017, then in Southwest Art magazine. Anyways, a number of people have been calling or sending emails. Are you teaching? If you're teaching, how do you teach, and so on. And few people who live around said, I would like to teach like one-to-one. That was my first experience teaching in my studio. Then we've been painting outside. And I was feeling that people, what I explain and show, say we learned a lot. It was a surprise for me because, quite often we think what we know is like something everyone knows.
Sure, yeah.
But quite often it's not like that.
Yeah.
And then Becky Butler, who is founder and owner of Arts Escape Studio, where we are right now in Southbury, Connecticut, she said, would you teach workshops? We have good space. I knew Becky back when she was our art director in Pomfret Woods. And so now she said, we have classes, we have a studio, we have easels. You just need to decide what you want to teach. And people have seen your works before. They want to learn from you. So I did that step a little over 2 years ago, I think now.
Okay.
That worked very well. We had full class, and then we did again. And then we're living in 21st century. And software, technology, phones, they're amazing.
Yeah.
It would be hard to imagine 20 years ago that you can carry whole studio in your phone.
Sure.
You can manage through your phone several other phones and like Switcher Studio and so on. So when I had few friends who are also tech savvy and who are also in art, they say, why won't you try to do recording of your lessons? So I tried. I think that was end of last year, about a year ago. I started to learn more about that, and I started to do webinars. So I said, I need to learn how to talk when there is no one in the room.
Yeah.
Imagining that it could be hundreds of people, maybe sitting in their own houses or outdoors in library listening to me.
Yeah.
But it's a wide audience. You try to deliver information to big variety, age-wise, skills-wise, interest-wise. But they came to listen to you through YouTube, Facebook, and so on. I tried that. It was difficult.
Yeah.
I remember preparing myself, even emotionally, how I'll be talking. The only thing was easy that was not first live sessions. I did recording once. I did recording two, keeping in mind that I can do re-recording.
Yeah.
Then it was coming out easier. Then I did live sessions, and it taught me a lot.
Yeah.
My brain was constantly thinking how I can get better in terms of my potential students or students at that moment understand me well, understand my English. Of course, I'm coming from another country, and I know my English is not perfect, but most people encouraged me. We understand you well enough. And I think my medical field helped me a lot. And then second thing is I was thinking about the teaching style. My wife, she's a music teacher. She gives private music lessons, and she also had transition from teaching just in Russian, finding here students who are just only Russian speaking.
Oh, okay.
I was not looking for Russian speaking students in arts, but she did. And then she's freely teaching in English, and I was thinking and asking her, because she has special education to teach music, but I did not have a special education of teaching painting.
Right.
So she knew a lot of things, and she was focused mainly on, and she is still focused on teaching children, and I'm focused on teaching adults. So there were differences and similarities. I was constantly thinking and observing. If I watch anyone's class, I would take some remarks. This is too complicated, this too simple. I was trying to imagine who are my students and how they listen. And I'm still working on, when I think about the content which I'm going to present, how it will be heard, will it be understood. And I think one of the things which I want to do new in teaching online, since it's relatively new way of teaching, it's probably no more than 10 years old. Yes. YouTube became more accessible, speed of the video is good, and then people now can watch everything on smartphones.
Sure.
So many people have unlimited internet now and so on, like even on mobile devices. So it makes a big difference. I want to teach people, if some students want to watch full lesson with all explanations, they can choose it on my online course. Someone needs highlights. Someone wants to see this course maybe a few months later or a third time. They don't want to probably watch entire 2, 3, 6, 7 hour session.
Wow.
Maybe they watched it in the beginning, but now they want to see just the most important parts. I constantly think about that.
Yeah.
I want my online courses to be exceptional, and that's what I'm working on. Also, since I came from another country, many Russians have that background, lack of confidence in language, lack of confidence when you're an immigrant, you cannot be feeling that you're already king in this area. So you go through this difficult period of adaptation. When you are in art, you are growing constantly.
Sure.
And your growth may happen that when you're maybe retired and you think it's absolutely new for me, things could be overwhelming. I want to give people confidence. Confidence can come with skills, knowledge. This is what I can teach them. And maybe provoke more emotional response to what they see. And even enjoy a lot, not the final, painting which will come out, but enjoy the process itself.
Right.
Because it can be quite scary.
Yeah.
Painting goes through stages when everything looks pretty simple, then it becomes scary. You see a lot of mess.
Yeah.
Then you need to organize, and you're not sure will it happen or not. Through teaching, I want to give them confidence. That is why I called my project Confident Artist.
Okay.
Don't think that it's about me.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
a confident artist, so you can learn from me. No, I want my student, you, to be confident artist.
So those webinars are at confidentartist.com, right?
That will be my venue where I will have good quality classes.
Okay.
So I'm started populating. There are several classes are in a stage of the production.
Okay.
People who visit this website, confidentartist.com, they cannot see them.
Okay.
But if they come, they need to see something. So one of my classes, which I did as a demo, just to give a taste, do people understand me? Do people like it? Or also to get some feedback from my students, I posted there one free class.
Okay.
It's free to sign up. And I really appreciate if someone who took that class, I had dozens and dozens of people who went through that already, just by word of mouth. They heard or seen that. They gave me valuable feedback. Some people want to have it longer. Some people want to have it shorter. Some people want to have it louder. Some people want to have it with music. Some people want to have it without music. I listen to everything.
Yeah.
Then I will probably do 2-3 different style teaching for the same class. So my audience will be happy whatever way they learn.
Wow.
And that will take a lot of efforts. I don't want to make it more expensive because of that. It will be more work for me to be done. But I want my students to say, I took that course.
Yeah.
And that really worked.
Now, what have you learned about yourself as an artist now that you've been teaching? Has what you've seen your students do impacted your work?
I think one of the big thing, which could be surprising, because I know that number of artists whom I know, like national known artists whom we paint together during in California, in East Shore, West Shore, they teach, and everyone will tell you if you ask them.
Mm-hmm.
So do you feel that you became better artists? They would say yes.
Yeah.
Because when you try to understand, to kind of systematize your knowledge, you need to read more, you need to try more, experiment more. You get to the stage when, again, by need, your art skill grows.
Okay.
Plus, in art is important simplification. You're not trying to make your art more and more complex. You need to find that balance. You always go more to the right or to the left. More complex, less complex. And good art should be not easy to understand, but should be understandable.
Sure.
Or at least understood, well understood by people who enjoy it. So when you teach, you need to present what you know the way it's understood.
Yeah.
Quite often, it's a magic, like good or bad meaning of that word. And I'm talking about the bad when you need to teach and you cannot explain why things happen. When you teach, you need to know why you mix this paint with that paint.
Right.
When you start understanding it, first you understand yourself better. Second, you can have your palette more clear, brighter color or pure color, and so on. When people asking what kind of pigments you're using, what kind of brands you're using, you start thinking, why I'm using these brands?
Yeah.
Is there anything else? Because people are asking why you don't, how about this one? You want to answer them. You're not going to say, I'm not using it, I don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
You start reading more. You start asking other people. But what's unique in my case, teaching art kind of turned me back to my Russian art roots.
Huh.
First, people are, of course, say, oh, you're from Russia.
Yeah.
So I know that and that Russian artists. And I always amazed was amazed how a Russian artists paint. And I see in your style that you're a Russian artist too.
Okay.
I started to think, is my art is really looks like Russian or not? Partially yes, partially no.
Yeah.
Because I formed a lot here in the last 14 years
Right.
as an American artist as well. I'm trying to reevaluate myself, what I need to take best from Russian art, what I need to take best from American art, maybe what I need to get rid of on either side. And next thing, my students, they're probably coming to me not only to learn from me as one of other American artists.
Yeah.
They want to learn from me as from Russian master. In Russia, it was say you cannot probably learn it because it's a process which takes 11, 16 years to be a professional artist.
Wow.
Kind of like you go to youth art school, then to special school,
Yeah.
then to academy, then you take fellowship.
It's very regulated.
Yes, and but I believe that there is some essential important things could be taught in shorter time if I can clearly explain it.
Yeah.
And when people take and ask Russian artists who come here, say can you show us how you paint? Many of them would say, after so many years of study, we do not think how we paint. We just paint by feeling. But a lot of things of them are just solidly built skills.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to kind of recover it back to knowledge and deliver it to my students.
Okay. That seems like a good way to break that down so it's possible to follow without getting lost in it.
And it's very exciting. That's very interesting. Plus, painting together, I start torturing my Russian friends. So, show me, can I look at it? I need it for my students.
Yeah.
I need it for myself. For myself, maybe not to change my style, but to deliver it to understand what's the difference.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that at Yale there is no Russian art or painting classes. Of course, there is a British art, medieval art, even Islamic art, Japanese art departments in Department of History of Arts, but not much about Russia.
Huh.
So maybe I can fill that gap if I learn more.
They're waiting for you to come on staff there.
Maybe everything's possible.
Yeah. All right. So before we finish up, I always like to give some rapid fire questions to all of my guests. So I'll put you front row center for a minute. The best meal you have ever had?
It's so different. I think about paints and so on. Best meal for me is still some of Russian food, which is called pelmeni.
Okay. What is this?
That's actually meat ravioli.
Okay.
That's one thing. If I talk about American art, living in New England, I think lobster tail with butter.
Yeah. Okay. All right. One time in your life that you have just laughed so hard you couldn't control yourself.
Laughed?
Yeah, laughed. Just.
Oh, that was before. I remember that. Before coming to stage, I was in school, doing a lot of things. I was also in dancing group and so on. We had a performance. Everyone been so tense, and someone I think, yes, one of my friends told a funny story. We've been so much tense that we just bursted laughing, and then performance went very well. It's not art related, but it's from my childhood.
Your biggest pet peeve? Is there something that just irritates you and you know it's going to happen?
Pet peeve. I'm not sure about what will happen because life is crazily dynamic. It's hard, and what it irritates me. I'm optimist.
Yeah.
I'm always look for positive things.
Okay.
I don't think I have that kind of thing.
All right. Well, do you have a favorite movie?
Do I have a favorite movie? There are a number of great movies, and it's hard to say. If I will call something in Russian, that will be will not much be easy to relate. I think when I was still finished my I finished my medical school and I was coming here. One of the first American movies was Family Man.
Nicolas Cage movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not the best movie in the
Yeah.
world, but somehow it became something which I like to watch before Christmas, and Christmas coming soon.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. One place that you think everyone should visit before it's too late?
It's too late because it will disappear.
Oh, for any reason. Maybe just too late in life, or it won't be around, or anything. Some place people shouldn't miss out on.
If I talk about artists and they have never been in Grand Canyon, I think that's something which impressed me a lot.
Okay.
I had the feeling that I'm on another planet.
Yeah.
And that's still hard to imagine that every one of us will go to the moon or to Mars. I think, I don't know, will it disappear or not for any reason? You never know. Maybe, or it's a meteorite will fall to that place or something. It can get disappeared.
I haven't been out there yet. My wife's been there.
Yes.
And I really want to at some point. It's
that would be advice for artists, for those who are very visual.
Yeah.
Everything else, it's hard to say. I would say we need to visit our parents maybe more often, grandparents, because
That's a good one.
And one of my friends also suggested me to, since I'm not portrait artist, even though I can do that, she said, like, you have good portrait artists who are your friends, like in Russia, call them and ask them to paint portrait of your parents.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Because you never know, it can be late.
Yeah. All right, and so the last thing, I always like to get a recommendation from everybody. So if there's anything that you have experienced recently that you would really like to pass on to other people, interesting music you heard or a restaurant you ate at, book you read, anything from any area that you just would like to recommend to other people.
I would recommend everyone to try to draw and paint.
Okay.
I think it's something natural. When people say, I cannot draw a straight line, I can answer them. In art, there is quite often, there is no need to draw straight lines. When I see straight line, I always intentionally make it broken.
Uh-huh.
So try, if you never tried drawing, if you never tried painting, try to paint.
Yeah.
That's very rewarding experience. And I think I like painting also. It impacts health.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the good way. Of course, some of the materials can be not good for the health if you're using it not appropriately.
Right.
Have ventilation and so on. But otherwise, it's like meditation.
Mm-hmm.
Also, it can also make family bonds stronger, I think. I'm like always imagining that the grandma who took classes, maybe my class, is drawing and painting with the grandchildren.
Sure.
Having fun together. Kids like to draw.
Yeah.
And grandma is also could show like I'm also can do something. And then the kids get introduced to oil painting or gouache or watercolors. Yeah. And they will have something they could enjoy doing together, not just going to restaurant and walking.
Sure. All right. How are you feeling right now?
I feel great.
Yeah?
I was feeling somehow very energized coming here. It's Monday. Happy Monday. And I'm saying that without any sarcasm.
All right. Well, thank you very much for doing this. I appreciate the time.
You're very welcome, Jordan. It's a pleasure to be on your podcast. I was glad to share my thoughts, ideas, and thank you for very interesting questions.
All right. Thank you. Well, there you go. Zufar is definitely passionate about his art and for sharing his art with others, and it was really a pleasure getting to speak with him. Thanks again to Arts Escape for allowing us to use their space to record. And you can see Zufar's work at confidentartist.com or zufar.com. That's ZUFAR.com. And if you'd like to learn more about Arts Escape's programs and events, visit artsescape.org. So we're into December now, and that means that the holiday season is in full swing. So my recommendation this week will be to support your local artists and craftspeople by shopping local for your holiday gift giving needs. One of the greatest benefits, I think, to living in Connecticut is that no matter what part of the state you're in, you are almost certainly surrounded by talented creators, and a gift made locally by hand can mean a lot, not just to the recipient, but to the person who actually created the item, and of course to the community. So I want to give a shout out today to my friends over at Couch Grouches. They're on a bit of a hiatus, hopefully temporary, because Jim and his wife Jamie recently welcomed their first child. Actually, just a few hours after I finished recording with the Grouches, an episode about fatherhood. So that was really good timing, Jim. So congrats to both of you, Jim and Jamie, and of course to Uncles Gonzo and Joe too. If you haven't listened to the Grouches, now is as good a time as any to get caught up before they get back into the swing of recording. I think at this point it's been 2 weeks, so come on guys, enough excuses. That's it for today. Thanks for listening. Make sure to subscribe to the pod and leave a rating or review on iTunes, and follow the pod on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for special announcements and photos and all kinds of other various table to stage shenanigans. That is it for now. Until next time, keep creating.